I recently had the opportunity to speak with one of the strongest, most talented, most skilled, most inspirational calisthenics athletes in the world. This athlete is world famous for his insane static holds, his crazy freestyle tricks, and his impeccable form. I'm not talking about Chris Heria, I'm talking about Thomas Kurganov.
If you like you're training a lot of things like all at once, it's gonna extract the energy into that one thing that you're wanting to do. So for sure, if your goals are like planche and front lever, like I would make that like the priority of your training. And yeah, I would have like certain days dedicated to like only planche, only front lever, and then maybe mixing it, right? And then each different day, training like a different aspect of it. The goal is to be able to train freestyle to just make sure that I have the correct like all your goals and everything. So you want to train to the freestyle. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. The statics, so front lever, back lever, handstand, and then reps. So improving like your muscle ups, stuff like that. Yes. Yeah. Cool. So in order to do all of that, you're gonna have to really be training in a way that you're not training at 100% intensity every time. You know what I mean? Yeah. So the way that I would structure your program is like just right off the top of my head is I'll maybe have you doing like two freestyle things like a week just to get into it, like get a repetition, and see how you feel start out. Um, one is going to be focusing on probably going to be the same things like when one day probably focusing on like slinging and like the Olympics, like there's a bar and stuff like that, and the other day probably going to be focusing on like individual. So like working on that 360, working on that. Um, this way you have one day dedicated to like each thing, and you're not confused or like mixing things up too much. And then on the other days, we'll be training static steps. So rep day will be pretty much, we'll have 1 to 2 rep days in a week. Everything is going to be, varying depending on your level, where you're at, um, what I see from you, and how you do in the first 2 weeks. But then all the other days are going to be static. So I'd love to be training statics like at least 4 times a week, and have that like as a main priority if that's what your goal is. Um, we'll be going week by week and seeing what works best for you.
Previously on Zen Holistic Fitness, I had the chance to chat with Thomas Kurganov. So if you missed part one of this interview, be sure to click the description. It's the first link in the description. So let's jump right into the interview and continue the conversation.
What I would say for that is we would include weighted reps into your program, and then that would help you to gain muscle, but then also stay functional with your weight. And just it would help you, it would complement your statics and keep your body like overall balanced. That's what you think. Weighted dips, weighted pull ups, muscle ups, like push ups, everything. All that stuff. Like, and just one day of that. And we'll there'll be like phases where it's like you'll maybe do like a few weeks of like the body weight stuff, and then like a few weeks of weighted. Or you'll have like one weighted and one body weight. You know what I mean? So we can mix it up depending on uh I think weighted will be good for you. Yeah, I think weighted will be good for you. So that one goal is planche front loader. Tell me where you're at with all the skills.
I I halfway decent form straddle planche for like a few seconds. I don't have the best posterior pelvic tilt line straddle. I feel like I'm kind of sticking my butt up in the air a bit, and I'm a little bit shaky, and my knees aren't like fully locked out all the time. But I'm very close to getting a halfway decent straddle. I can straddle front lever for
Like front loader pull.
yeah. I can do that. Touch my waist to the bar folds, come down. I can do one leg, one knee tucked, front lever raise, partial range of motion for reps. I can tuck planche. I can do probably 3 or 4 freestanding handstand push-ups on P bars, maybe like 4 or 5 on the ground. Touch my nose to the ground, go back up. So I have decent pushing strength with like the 9 pushing, like the overhead pushing. I'm pretty close to a 1 rep pull up. We could probably do like 1 sloppy form rep. So I have decent strength in that, but my main goal is the lever pushing and pulling strength.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. So okay, with all that being said, with where you with where you're at now, what is your like goal that like let's say like after like 3 months, what's your expectation of like where do you want to be?
If I pull unrolled straddle plates and do a full front leg, I would be really happy on a straight bar, a parallel bar.
It's just like 3 5 seconds.
Second straight bar front leg and 3 to 5 second parallel bar shuttle planche would be cool.
Okay, so for the straddle plank, you're more worried about like the form, like improving the form and holding for a longer plank.
Yes, the form and the strength that comes in that's required for the form and that, yeah.
Right. Okay. Got you. And then for the full front lever as well, same thing. Only a clean. Awesome. And then I think working on the bent arm pushing strength, the handstand push-ups. I don't know if you've ever done a 90-degree handstand push-up. Okay, so let's put that also on the list. We'll say let's get 90 degrees. Freestyle. Let's talk about freestyle. Tell me about what moves you're working on, what moves you want to get, stuff like that.
Yeah, I'd like to eventually learn the swing 360. I feel like I really focused on like the lifts because I feel like I just come away from the bar. Like I said, if I focused on like staying close to the bar and looking over, because I call it 360 muscle up, um, and regrab. So I know how to like spin and regrab. Go with the swing 360. I haven't stayed consistent with it enough. Skill like shrimp flips and gangers and all of that, and like what do they call big giants? Like going upside down is kind of scary because I don't have like I'd have to like set up like a mattress. I feel like I don't want to just try it on my pull-up bar in my house.
It's not like too scary. As long as you like go through the right questions and everything. It's more of ganger that I would be careful with. Baby giant also not a problem. Like you can learn that pretty easily. Swing 360 not a problem. So all stuff like that. Start working 540. So all spins is no problem because you're not gonna have a major fall from that. If you have some mass down, then you're gonna be safe. It's like the inverted stuff that you just gonna be careful with. And if you're doing like a full straight arm giant, like yeah, that's gonna be scary, but you won't be doing that at first. You'll learn how to do like baby giant, and it also starts from like basics, just do a forward roll, how to do a proper 180, how to do a basket catch, like doing baskets around the bar, stuff like this. So to start from all that stuff, if you don't already know how to do it.